What's up, everybody? This is your boy Chainsaw. Boy, there's a lot that has been transpiring in the last 24 to 48 hours, so let's just jump right in. Firstly, Missouri God Emperor Mike Parson is wrist deep this week in cronyism. Imagine that. On multiple fronts. And speaking of bad cops, crooked cops rather, we're going to discuss multiple stories from DC to Kenosha to Seattle to Chicago, this and so much more. So let's just jump right into it. Now, firstly, in some of my investigative journalism, I have come to find and am of the opinion that Governor Mike Parson refuses to wake up, grab a brush, put on a little makeup, hides the scars to fade away the shakeup. But what I can't figure out is why'd he leave the keys up on the table? So here we go, creating another fable. You can quote me on that, but you may go far. Parson announced in a news release recently this week that he would be making some changes within Jefferson City. Firstly, that the Office of Administration Commissioner Sarah Steelman, she would be stepping down, of course, in the press release or in the news release. He didn't say why, of course. Well, it turns out that she was asked to resign by Mikey P. herself. When asked if she did something wrong, he gave his favorite answer and simply said no. It's his favorite word, apparently. Steelman, who was appointed by then Governor Busy Hands himself, Busy Hands blackmail Eric Greitens back in 2018. You may recall she was the subject of a federal investigation involving tracking devices that were placed on her vehicle and also the vehicle of the state's former COO, Drew Edman, by a private investigator who claims that they were assisted in their incestuous espionage by Representative Dottie Bailey, Republican from Eureka. The former commissioner's husband, David Steelman, he had remarked that after his raising objections regarding one of the governor's advisors using their connections with the University of Missouri to seek business for lobbyists, that he would lose his position on the university's board of curators. Well, turns out he was right. After the former commissioner's husband went public with this accusation, the governor demanded his resignation, and after refusal, ultimately fired David Steelman for, as he put it, because he wouldn't play ball. So we'll leave that to your opinion. Some things and some people are just too valuable for Mikey P to let go completely. Now, you may also recall Acting Director of Social Services Jennifer Tidball. She recently made headline news when the U.S. Department of Health, the Human Services Office of Inspector General reported a lack of oversight by her department regarding nearly 1,000 missing foster kids in 2019. Failure to report to authorities of absences, unlicensed youth residential facilities that were accused of abuse, and the lack of massive layoffs of employees within her department, right? So surely she was also fired, right? Or at least given the opportunity to resign. Not exactly. She was actually bumped down to COO, Chief Operating Officer, of the same department. Cronyism is the word of the year. Earlier this year, Parson also vetoed legislation that would have required the DSS director to be confirmed by the state Senate. King Parson clearly knows better, and he is quoted as saying that this kind of democracy undermines the executive's constitutional authority to appoint and compensate department directors. This is in order to get paid. They would have had to being stated by the Senate, but of course he can just make and break people at his will. So more power in his hands and apparently under his eye. You can't make this stuff up. The silver lining here is that a former acting director of the Department of Health and the Department of Health and Senior Services, and Chief of Staff Robert Knodell, he's going to be replacing Steelman as the acting director of social services. Now, again, the silver lining is that this is the same guy who back in July, while Mikey P was duking it out with hospitals over, how much federal taxpayer money he was going to, give them versus how much he had been hoarding for, since March of last year, right? This is the same guy who came out on Twitter, calling the baloney, against vaccines exactly what it is. Baloney. This guy. Let me pull this up. So right here, right? Missouri health officials call COVID vaccine falsehoods a bunch of baloney. So this guy, he's going to be taking her place. And we can pull the Twitter feed here. I'm not one to vent on Twitter, but enough is enough. All this rhetoric against COVID vaccines is a bunch of baloney. You don't have to trust me. Consult your family physician or pharmacist. If you don't want to protect yourself, do it to protect your family, neighbors, or strangers who may have vulnerabilities putting them at grave risk you may not even know about. We all care about and look after one another. Let's stop this virus in its tracks once and for all. So awesome. Robert Knodell. Well, let's take a look here. Called it what it is, baloney. Now, that being said, according to his Twitter account, he identifies as Deputy Chief of Staff, of course, Office of Missouri Governor Mike Parson, follower of Christ, husband and father. Okay, well, at least he's a public servant first, before a religious ideologue, even though his family still comes last, but that may still be good news for the rest of it. It truly remains to be seen. So with that, and to follow up on yesterday's show, we mentioned about how Governor Mikey P got so many hits on social media. Apparently that's the number one. So Governor Mikey P it is. I don't know. So anyway, God Emperor Mike Parson, in his infinite wisdom, as we covered in yesterday's show, was given some information regarding a security breach. And by security breach, I mean a lack of security in state websites. Now, that information was leaked, rather hand-delivered with a nice pink ribbon, red bow, if you will, by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. We covered that in yesterday's show. So the AP published this here. Let's pull this up. Missouri governor urged to appoint cybersecurity panel. So great news. We're being proactive, doing something besides just attacking journalists. So let's take a look at this here. 3 months after the creation of a commission to identify cybersecurity risks in state government, Missouri Governor Mike Parson has yet to appoint any members. Boy, does that sound familiar? 3 months. Kind of like how last year, President Donald J. Trump, you guys remember him? I'm sure Mikey P does. Signed into law the stimulus package at the end of last year, at the end of his term, well after the elections, right? Signed into law another stimulus package that was going to allow for rental assistance, which again took months to be created. I think it was like a month and a half before it was even created by the state. And then another, say 4 to 6 weeks, potentially another 2 months before it was actually implemented by the state. And soon after one part of that program that was created by the state to use those funds several months after it was actually the funds were allotted for and released to the states to be used at their discretion for the purposes that they were allocated from federal coffers. Half of that program was canceled by the governor in his infinite wisdom. So, yeah, 3 months after they were looking into creating a commission for cybersecurity risks, I'm not surprised. No one else really should be. This guy. I think the new nickname is going to be Governor Nap Nap because he's not really big on coming to work. Missouri Governor Mikey P has yet to appoint any members. A state lawmaker said Friday that vulnerabilities exposed on a state website prove the need for just such a panel of experts. Democratic State Representative Ashley Aun of Kansas City helped write the section of Senate Bill 49 that created this Missouri Cybersecurity Commission. Parson, a Republican, signed the bill into law in mid-July. Yikes. In light of the events that have transpired this week, I believe the governor cannot wait any longer to appoint members to this commission, so it may do the critical work of identifying and rectifying gaps in Missouri's cyber infrastructure, or just lazy coding. You get what you pay for, and spending cuts, right? Alan said in a news release, a St. Louis Post-Dispatch journalist uncovered a security flaw in a Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's web application that allowed the public to search teacher certifications and credentials. For those of you who didn't catch the show yesterday, the newspaper found the social security numbers of perhaps 100,000 teachers and other school officials from around the state where they were in the HTML source code of the pages involved. You know, like when you accidentally pull that up on a website that you're browsing. Because, your cat hits the keyboard. Definitely a thing. The Post-Dispatch alerted the department on Tuesday, and the agency removed the pages. The Post-Dispatch said it gave the state time to fix the problem before publishing a story on Thursday. But Parson on Thursday announced a critical investigation alleging the newspaper's journalist was acting against a state agency to compromise teachers' personal information in an attempt to embarrass the state and sell headlines for their news outlet. We will not let this crime against Missouri teachers go unpunished. You freaking kidding me, guy? There's your embarrassment right there. The crime against Missouri teachers is it's a lack of follow through in doing your job, Mikey P. I'm just saying, where you been since mid-July? Stop it. They gave you a house. You only have to pay rent. I mean, Alan accused Parson of a smear. He doesn't have to worry about rental assistance. Besides, he got PPP money, so he definitely doesn't have to worry about rental assistance. I'm just saying, don't believe me. You don't even know if I'm wearing pants. Alan accused Parsons of a smear campaign against the Post-Dispatch journalist when it was Parsons' administration that stored the private information and left it unprotected. The fiasco perfectly illustrates why Missouri needs to get serious about confronting 21st century cyber threats. More like 20th century, but that's cool. An email message left Friday with Parsons' spokeswoman was not immediately returned, but during his news conference Thursday, Parsons said the state is working to strengthen our security to prevent this incident from happening again. The state is owning its part, and we're addressing areas in which we need to do better than we have done before. We're owning our part. I think you just missed the buck there, bro. Ian Caso, publisher of the Post-Dispatch, said in a statement that the newspaper stands by the story, and the reporter who said he did everything right. Oren Kerr, a law professor at the University of California, Berkeley, an expert on computer crime law, said the fact that Post-Dispatch journalist looked at the HTML source code is not a crime. Again, could have been a cat. Okay, if your protocols are that weak, come on. The Supreme Court has recently said the federal computer hacking laws calls for gates up versus gates down inquiry. Kerr said, and when you post information and source code on your website on pages the public is supposed to access, the gate is up. So. Good luck with your investigation there, sir. Sir. It's not looking really so well for Governor Mikey P. Serious question though: should Mike Parson be recalled like immediately for this and other just ridiculous actions? You know, we have shown just on this show that Mike Parson is not above going against Missouri state law, federal code when it came to things like the unemployment cuts, the premature unemployment cuts, stuff like this. I mean, cyber terrorism? Come on. Should Mike Parson be recalled immediately? Let me know in the comments. With this kind of logic, I mean, is anyone else really surprised that Mike Parson hasn't accused the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General of themselves taking those 1,000 kids mentioned in the last segment for bringing that to the attention of the state? I'm just saying, with this kind of logic, these are the kind of people we're dealing with here in Missouri. So, yeah, that's all I got for you in this segment. We're going to take a short break, and let me know what you think in the comments, bro. Webull is the stock app and trading platform that everybody's using, and I mean everybody's using. You've seen it all over YouTube. I use it on my own channel to show what's happening in the market. You pay 0 commission fees. You can own fractional shares. You can even trade in cryptocurrencies and access real-time market data. Use my referral link, chainsawccc.com/Webull. That's chainsawccc.com/Webull, Webull, and get your 2 free stocks. Simply by opening an account and depositing any amount, get you 2 free stocks from Webull. Believe me, you're going to want this one. All right, so Governor Mikey P aside for just a second, while we're at it, since we're on the subject of crooked cops, I know how much everybody loves it when I read the news to you, so let's take a look at this here. Breaking news just today. Prosecutors, Capitol cop told January 6 rioter to hide evidence. AP reports. Whoa. Hide evidence? That's extreme. Let's take a look. Washington AP, a U.S. Capitol police officer has been indicted on obstruction of justice charges after prosecutors say he helped to hide evidence of a rioter's involvement in the January 6th insurrection. The officer, Michael A. Riley, is accused of tipping off someone who participated in the riot by telling them to remove posts from Facebook that had showed the person inside the Capitol during the January 6th attack, according to court documents. Ooh, that's conspiracy, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a jury of your peers. I don't think people like this have peers, so good luck in court. Riley, 50, appeared virtually in federal court in Washington and was released with several conditions, including that he surrender any firearms and not travel outside the U.S. without permission from a judge. He was ordered to return to court later this month. Riley, who responded to a report of a pipe bomb on January 6th, has been a Capitol police officer for about 25 years. Is this a cop we were talking about yesterday? Don't want to take the vaccine. You don't want to wear shoes. Is this the guy? But I digress. He had sent the person a message telling them that he was an officer with the police force who agrees with your political stance. That's a quote. Gross. It's a gross quote. An indictment against him says the indictment spells out how Riley sent dozens of messages to the unidentified person, encouraging them to remove incriminating photos and videos, telling them how the FBI was investigating the rioters. This sounds familiar, and we'll jump into that here in just a second, but this sounds very, very familiar to me. I can't imagine where. In a statement, U.S. Capitol Police Chief Tom Manger said the department learned of the investigation against Riley several weeks ago and placed him on administrative leave when he was arrested Friday. Manger called the indictment a very serious allegation and said the department's Office of Professional Responsibility was opening an internal investigation. His arrest and accusation that an active duty Capitol Police officer was trying to obstruct the investigation into the attack is particularly notable because many of his colleagues were brutally beaten in the insurrection. The riot left dozens, agrees with the cause. Are you kidding me? The riot left dozens of police officers bloodied and bruised as the crowd of pro-Trump rioters, some armed with pipes, bats, bear spray, charged in the Capitol and quickly overrunning the overwhelmed police force. One officer was beaten and shocked with a stun gun repeatedly until he had a heart attack. Another was foaming at the mouth, screaming for help as rioters crushed him between two doors and bashed him in the head with his own weapon. Just another day of tourists at the Capitol, right? More than 600 people faced charges in the January 6th attack, in which a mob loyal to the then President Donald Trump stormed the Capitol, or were they Antifa, paid by George Soros? Guess we'll never know. Oh, wait, they're in court. Battled police and tried to stop the certification of the election victory for President Joe Biden. In the days after the attack, scores of rioters flaunted their participation in social media posts that bragged about their ability to get inside the Capitol, but then started realizing it could be used as evidence and began deleting it. Associated Press review of court records has found that at least 49 defendants are accused of trying to erase incriminating photos, videos, texts from phones, social media accounts documenting their conduct as the pro-Trump mob stormed Congress and briefly interrupted the certification of Democrat Joe Biden's election victory. Experts say the efforts to scrub the social media accounts reveal a desperate willingness to manipulate evidence. Once these people realize they were in hot water, they say it can serve as a powerful proof of people's consciousness of guilt and can make it harder to negotiate plea deals and seek leniency at sentencing, you bunch of dummies. Riley told the rioter that the scene was a total S show. I'm glad you got out of there unscathed. We had over 50 officers hurt, some pretty bad, but, glad you made it, right? The officer wrote, according to the complaint. Talk about the party of law and order and back in the blue. I don't know whose side this guy's on. Oh, wait, we do. When the rioter said through the messaging that he didn't think he'd, done anything wrong, Riley responded, according to the court papers, the only thing I can see is if you went into the building and they have proof, you will be charged. You could always articulate that you had nowhere to go, but that's for the courts. So this just screams conspiracy. Later in January, after the two had discussed their love of fishing, Riley told the man to get off social media. That should have no ill effect on the case. They're arresting dozens of people a day, he wrote, according to the posting. Everyone that was in the building engaged in violent acts or destruction of property, and they're all being charged federally with felonies. Making digital content vanish is as easy as deleting content from phones, removing social media posts, or shutting down accounts. Investigators have been able to retrieve the digital content by requesting it from social media companies, even after accounts are shut down. Posts made on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms are recoverable for a certain period of time. Authorities routinely ask those companies to preserve the records until they get court orders to view the posts. So if you don't think that your phone's knocking you out, where you been? Or you could just not commit crimes and don't be a terrorist. It seems like it'd be so much easier, right? Where are we at here? Despite initial criticism that the Capitol Police did not do enough to stop the rioters, Riley is the first Capitol Police officer to be charged with a crime involving the insurrection. But several current and former police officers were arrested on riot-related charges, including 2 Virginia police officers who posed for a photo during the attack. In July, authorities arrested an off-duty Drug Enforcement Administration agent accused of posing for photographs in which he flashed his DEA badge and firearm outside the Capitol during the riot. Boy, these are the kind of guys. I wonder if they're vaccinated. I'm just saying. Other law enforcement officers were investigated for their presence at the Capitol that day or at Trump's rally before the riot. In January, an AP survey of law enforcement agencies nationwide found that at least 31 officers in 12 states are being scrutinized by their supervisors for their behavior in the District of Columbia or face criminal charges for participating in the riot. In September, Capitol Police said officials had recommended disciplinary action in 6 cases after an internal review of officer behavior stemming from January 6 on the U.S. Capitol. The department's Office of Professional Responsibility had opened 38 internal investigations and was able to identify 26 of the officers involved. Police said in a statement at the time, in 20 of the cases, no wrongdoing was found. It isn't clear whether Riley was among the officers who were referred to for disciplinary action. So, I don't even think I actually caught that the first go around there. 20 of the cases found no wrongdoing. That's just weird. I mean, again, party of law and order. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, how do you even do that? How do we come to a point where even something so, well, I guess it is politicized these days, because there are those who believe that it was nothing more than left-wing terrorists. It was Antifa. It was George Soros with his magical Obama buses. It was just regular tourists, just on a regular day. It was like they were just showing them the Capitol, right? Just a normal day in Washington, D.C. Something that should not be politicized, and these officers should be investigated, and if evidence brought against them. I mean, first of all, what does it take to investigate something like this anyway? Obviously, there's got to be some sort of investigation or some sort of evidence. Otherwise, there wouldn't be an investigation. That's kind of how internal affairs works. They're not just going off of every single report. Before they start making things a little more official there. But I'm getting off track here. So, speaking of crooked cops across the country, I made some promises, and let's see if we can keep them. So I found this also, lawsuit over Kenosha shootings. Police enabled armed militia. Well, this is something that we probably already knew, but let's take a little deeper dive here. This again, breaking news, AP posted today, A man who was shot in the arm by Kyle Rittenhouse during a protest last year against police brutality in Wisconsin has filed a federal lawsuit alleging police enabled the violence by allowing an armed militia to have free run of the streets during the demonstration. Now, I actually covered this in other social media when it happened. There's posts from militia members in message boards all over Facebook. I mean, all over Facebook. Honestly, there were a lot of police officers who were posting on their own personal Facebooks, or, alleged police officers posting on their own personal Facebooks in support of counter protests. And some of the crazy crap you're going to see in this article was some of this crazy crap I've seen on social media. Again, maybe those were also Antifa, just posing as police officers, working in support of white supremacists and other militia groups and right-wing extremist groups. Could have been George Soros, man. That guy's just everywhere. Like, how is he everywhere? He's so good. He's just so good at what he does, right? Rittenhouse shot Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, and Gage Grosskreutz with an AR-style semi-automatic rifle during the protest in Kenosha on August 25th, 2020, after an officer shot Jacob Blake 2 days earlier. Rosenbaum and Huber died. Grosskreutz was wounded in the arm, but survived. Prosecutors have charged Rittenhouse, who was 17 at the time, with multiple counts, including homicide. He has argued he fired in self-defense after Rosenbaum and Huber attacked him, and Grosskreutz ran up to him armed with a handgun. Rittenhouse's trial is slated to begin next month. Now, Grosskreutz lawsuit filed Thursday alleges that Rittenhouse, who lived in Antioch, Illinois, just across the border there, I'm sure you've been following this stuff, so he had joined white supremacist militia members who had answered the call on social media to travel to Kenosha and protect businesses during the protest. Rittenhouse and Grosskreutz are white, so are Rosenbaum and Huber. The filing maintains police knew the militia was there to hurt people, pointing to social media responses such as, and quote, counter-protest, question mark, nah, I fully plan to kill looters and rioters tonight. And also, quote, armed and ready, shoot to kill tonight, end quote. The identities of the posters weren't given in the lawsuits. They were nicer than I was on Facebook. I'm just saying, if I see your trashy little name on this stuff, I'm going to show it. Don't be a dick. Don't be a murderous dick, specifically, right? But numerous officers saw Rittenhouse before and after the shootings, but never asked him for identification, detained him, or disarmed him, and let him walk past them, even though people were yelling that he had just shot people. And he still had his rifle slung over his chest, according to the lawsuit. If lawsuit is quoted as saying, if a black man had approached police with an assault rifle, offering to patrol the streets with the police, he most likely would have been shot dead, the lawsuit said. If a black child had shot 3 citizens with an assault rifle and was seen walking away from the scene of the shooting with the assault rifle in hand while other citizens yelled he was an active shooter, he would have been shot dead. That's pretty real, bro. The lawsuit alleges Kenosha police, the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department, and the city committed multiple constitutional violations, including conspiracy to obstruct justice, equal protection, and free speech violations, and failure to intervene. They forgot to do their freaking job, bro. The filing seeks unspecified damages. Now, there's actually a video of them, after he shot these people, just walking by, and he's like, I just shot somebody, just let him go, tell him get out of the street. If I misspeak on that, forgive me. It's been a while. Okay, go check out the video yourself. Don't listen to me. You don't even know if I'm wearing pants, and I'm not going to tell you. Attorney Sam Hall, is that where we're at? Yep. Attorney Sam Hall, who represents Kenosha County, and Sheriff David Beth said Friday the allegations are false. He said the lawsuit fails to acknowledge that Grosskreutz was armed when he was shot by Rittenhouse, and he noted that Grosskreutz hasn't sued Rittenhouse. Hall said he will request dismissal of the case. Of course, why not? City officials didn't immediately return messages Friday. Huber's family filed a similar federal lawsuit in August alleging police facilitated the shootings. That case is pending. The protest began after a white Kenosha officer shot Blake, who was black, in the back during a domestic disturbance. Blake was wanted on a felony warrant, resisted arrest. Officer Rustin Chesky shot him after he turned toward him holding a knife. According to investigators, the shooting left Blake paralyzed from the waist down. So, yeah, wild stuff. Of course they're going to ask for it to be dismissed. They don't want something like that to go to court with a jury of their peers. That'd be crazy. Why would a cop want something like that to happen? If it doesn't get dismissed, then they'll probably request a bench trial because, or then they don't have to worry about, actually having this be an issue, right? It's just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting stuff. If day trading is too stressful or you just don't want to deal with the volatility of the market, M1 Finance has got you covered. This easy-to-use trading platform basically lets you build your own index fund out of companies that you believe in. And if you use my link at chainsawccc.com/M1, M1 Finance will give you a free $30 just for signing up and funding your M1 account. Get started today. chainsawccc.com/M1. $30 is waiting for you, bro. So, since we're talking about crooked cops and we're going to move on to police unions, I mean, do they actually back the blue, or is just politics as usual from the pro-COVID party? Let's take a look. AP article from today. This is not from 38 minutes ago. This is from several minutes before that. Cities, police unions clash as vaccine mandates take effect. Police departments around the U.S. that are requiring officers to get vaccinated against COVID-19 are running up against pockets of resistance that some fear could leave law enforcement short-handed and undermine public safety. Police unions and officers are pushing back by filing lawsuits to block the mandates. We'll discuss that. In Chicago, the head of the police union called on members to defy the city's Friday deadline for reporting their COVID-19 vaccination status. Okay, so we're just not even going to discuss that. So a little less of I'm just not getting the vaccine, but that's my HIPAA. That's my HIPAA. Oh, we've heard this. The standoffs are playing out at a time when many police departments already are dealing with surging homicide rates and staff shortages unrelated to the vaccine. Should I repeat that again for the people in the back? Staff shortages unrelated to the vaccine. Okay. Chicago's mayor on Friday filed a complaint in court against the leader of the local Fraternal Order Police, accusing him of engaging in supporting and encouraging work stoppage or strike, by saying the city's more than 12,000 uniformed police officers should just ignore federal order, or federal order at this point, municipal order, right? Should ignore the order to report their vaccination status. On Thursday, Mayor Lori Lightfoot said officers would not be sent home if they showed up to work on Friday and refused to provide their information. Instead, she said they would be put on unpaid leave after the weekend because confirming compliance would take a few days. Refusing to provide the information, Lightfoot said, would constitute an act of insubordination. Because if you're not willing to follow departmental policy, you're not willing to follow departmental policy. Like, you don't need to be a cop if you can't follow police protocols. And no matter if you like it, if you agree with it, if it's against your politics, if it's against your religion, go work at the freaking bowling alley, along with the rest of those jackwagons, right? It's the real thing. Like, this is actually a great way to weed out bad cops. Doesn't matter how many of them. This problem is solving itself. This is a godsend to police reform activists, not defund the police, but don't let the police shoot people and get away with it. Kind of like that thing in Kenosha there. Kind of like that. This was good for avoiding shit like that from happening in the communities, right? Because that's probably not so great. So John Catanzara, president of the FOP local in Chicago, Fraternal Order of Police in Chicago, said about half of his members have not been vaccinated and called a mandate requiring inoculation absolutely wrong. Good thing that doesn't matter what you think. They are willing to go into a no-pay status at midnight tonight and get sent home. Well, good riddance. He said, suggesting during an appearance on Fox News that the city could not afford to lose police officers. No, it cannot afford to have bad cops who don't follow police procedures, is what it can't afford. Everybody wants to use Chicago as like the focal point of liberal politics gone wrong because of the lack of the gun control in Chicago, and it's the murder rate's insane. Just folks just forget that in good old South Bend, Indiana, which right there, that's it's Indiana, so they do not have the same kind of laws that they have in Chicago, and that a very large portion of the illegal firearms that end up in Chicago come from Indiana, but no need to worry about that. Now, what the city of Chicago cannot afford is bad cops, crooked cops, people out there, more criminals walking the streets, and this time with a badge and a gun, licensed. Need I continue? Lost my place. The reality is we have a profession nobody else wants to do right now. They cannot get anybody to go into this police academy, he said. In Los Angeles County, Sheriff Alex Villanueva said he won't force his 18,000 employees to be vaccinated despite a county mandate. I don't want to be in a position to lose 5-10% of my workforce overnight, he said last week. Los Angeles is another one of those where you don't need crooked cops. If you're not willing to follow police protocol, you do not need to be a cop. Just quit your job. Why are you waiting? Quit. You should have quit this morning. Should have woke up this morning, had a hot pocket, said goodbyes, said your goodbyes to your last donut, and then went and got a job at a local gas station with less than 100 employees, because that's what you deserve. Hundreds of police officers in San Diego said they would consider quitting instead of complying with a vaccination mandate. Resistance is bubbling up though first responders have been hit hard by COVID-19, more than 460 law enforcement officers have died from the virus, according to Officer Down memorial page. I was actually looking at that. It's gone. I believe it's gone up. Well, we'll take a look at that here in just a second. According to Officer Down memorial page, 460 officers have died from the virus. 460. Okay, that's like a lot. Disputes compared to other officer deaths, and we'll get to that here in just a second. Despite other governments and business vaccine requirements have spilled over into a variety of workplaces, including one of the nation's premier nuclear weapons laboratories and the NBA, workers at Los Alamos National Laboratory, the birthplace of the atomic bomb, faced a deadline on Friday to get vaccinated or risk being fired. A New Mexico judge denied a last-minute request by dozens of scientists and others to block the mandate. Scientists who don't believe in science. Again, you people are in the wrong field. Just there for a paycheck. You're in the wrong field. That's just how it goes. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't, you've been lying to your employers this entire time. It's time to be honest with yourself. In the NBA, the Brooklyn Nets are not allowing star Kyrie Irving to practice or play until he's vaccinated. The number of Americans getting vaccinated has steadily increased over the past 3 months as boosters have become available. Mandates have taken effect. The number of shots administered per day has topped 840,000 on average. No national statistics show the vaccination rate for America's first responders, but individual police and fire departments across the country have reported figures far below the national rate of 77% for adults who've had at least one dose. Police departments in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver are among those under vaccine mandates or facing one. New York's mayor has said he's looking at the idea despite opposition from the city's largest police union. The union, representing some 1,000 Seattle police personnel, argues that the matter should be the subject of labor negotiations. Boy, we know how that's going to go, don't we? They'll be protesting at a Walmart somewhere, all 7 of them. But I digress. Union President Mike Solon has suggested that the mandate could worsen staffing shortages, which in turn could risk public safety. Well, it sounds like they're already a risk to public safety in general. I mean, if they're not willing to get vaccinated, what makes you think they're not willing to be just kneeling on people's necks until they're, all good and cold and dead and whatnot? Just saying. This was police not following police protocol was a problem before COVID-19. So stop it. Get out. Quit today, right now. If you're a cop and you're seeing this and you're not vaccinated and you're not going to get vaccinated, I want to see you at, small communities, they don't really have, I don't know how many people are working at Casey's. You can probably get a job there, right? Do they have 100 employees? I'm not even sure. Go start a business. Take your pension money, and just go trade stocks or something. I don't know, like do anything else. Go farm. That's why you live here in the Ozarks anyway, right? Just get out there and go grow turnips. Yeah, bunch of sissies. The department has more than 300 officers in the past year and a half, anticipates another mass exodus in the coming weeks. Solon said nearly 300 officers in Seattle had either not turned in the paperwork showing they were vaccinated or were seeking an exemption. The mayor's office said earlier this week. In recent weeks, judges have rejected attempts by a group of Oregon State Police troopers and Denver police officers to block mask mandates. And thank God for that. Seriously, thank God for that. Here's the thing. Do police unions actually back the blue, or is this, as I said, just politics as usual from the pro-COVID party? Well, let's take a look. Out of the police officers that have died, we're looking at, I believe it's now increased because, the last time I had looked, at the memorial page referenced, it was around 54.9%. 54.9%. Listen to me. If you listen to nothing else in this show or this clip, 54.9%, more than 54.9% of all law enforcement deaths this year. 62% of all law enforcement deaths last year in 2020 are from COVID-19. Over half the people, over half the cops, law enforcement period, over half of them that have died in the last 2 years have died because of COVID-19. Okay. Over half. More than half. That's twice as many cops dead today than there would have been in the last 2 years because of COVID-19. So forget what you think about riots. Forget what you think about, Antifa. Forget what you think about BLM. Hell, forget what you think about the Proud Boys in January 6th, if you will. There are more than twice as many cops dead this year alone. Far more than twice as many cops dead last year alone because of COVID. So, back to blue? Are you kidding me? Like, it seems to me like these police unions who are actually, in effect, encouraging more dead officers is what it sounds like. If we look at the statistics, this kind of action is encouraging not only more dead cops, but also encouraging bad policing. It's encouraging the police to not follow police protocols. I mean, if they aren't willing to follow their own rules when it comes to getting a freaking shot on something that, statistically speaking, is not going to actually do really anything from them except for keeping their dumbasses dying from whenever they get COVID-19, because they're out there in the public, amongst the public. Every time there's a traffic stop, they're out there with the public. It's very much a thing. I don't know what's so hard to understand about this. It should not be this difficult. It really shouldn't. You wouldn't think, but I guess some folks don't think. But yeah, so where are we at? Let's continue just a little bit here. This will be our last one on cops doing stupid shit. Chicago mayor takes police union head to court over vaccines. Thank God there's a voice of reason in this group. I'm telling you, waiting for this for a couple of days now. It says 2 hours ago, but again, this is breaking news from today. It's definitely more than 2 hours ago. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot said Friday that she took her fight with the head of the city's police officers union to court, arguing that his call for officers to ignore the court to report their COVID-19 vaccination status was illegal. The mayor said in a statement that the city's law department filed a complaint in Cook County Circuit Court for injunctive relief against Fraternal Order Police President John Catanzara, this hero, whom she accused of engaging in and encouraging work stoppage or strike. It sounds like he's also engaging in and supporting the attempt on good cops to be good cops, and certainly their lives and the lives of citizens in the community. Stop it. Lightfoot has asked the court to prohibit the union and its officers from engaging in any concerted refusal to submit vaccination status information to the city's portal. She also asked it to order Catanzara to stop urging members to refuse to provide their vaccination status information and to issue a retraction and disavowal of his directives to FOP members that they refuse to submit vaccination status information. Lightfoot said that by urging union members to not report their COVID-19 by Friday's deadline, Catanzara put the public in danger. Well, it does. I mean, you're telling cops you don't have to follow the rules. You can do whatever, you can do whatever you want to. Really, I mean, what's going to happen to you? Don't worry. The police union's got you. Pretty much that's been the problem with, police reform activists in general, is that their argument has been that cops do whatever the hell they want to, and the union's going to back them no matter what. This is living proof. This is like the most terrifying thing should be to everyone, specifically the party of law and order. You can't exactly be law and order if you got cops who are willing to break the law because of stupidity, sheer, absolute freaking stupidity. By doing so and by predicting that 50% or more officers will violate their oaths and not report for duty, Catanzara is encouraging an unlawful strike and work stoppage, which carries the potential to undermine public safety and expose our residents to irreparable harm, particularly during an ongoing pandemic, she wrote in the court filing. Catanzara has maintained that the officers have a legal right to follow his request. Legal right to follow his request to show up for work and be sent home for refusing to fill out the city's COVID-19 portal. They have a legal right to get fired and go do something else. This is not a job action, not a call for a strike, none of that illegal stuff that I'm sure the city is going to make it out to be, he said in a video posted Tuesday. What are you talking about, dude? They said it's a police. Wow, not any of that illegal stuff. Are you kidding me? Like you're breaking procedure. That is illegal. If you just go around shooting people for no reason, that's illegal. That's also against, you have rules for this. Yeah, these people definitely do not need to be having a badge and a gun, and it doesn't have anything to do with COVID-19. How can folks like this be trusted to assess a situation based on facts? That in itself disqualifies these individuals for being police officers in general. If they're not able to discern fact from fiction, you don't need to be a cop. You don't need to be one. That shit's dangerous for the community. Stop it. Wow. Then on Friday, the FOP filed its own complaint seeking a temporary restraining order to compel the city to go into arbitration over the mandate. They can take us to court all they want, he said in a video posted to the union's website, along with a copy of the complaint. We already are filing paperwork to dismiss that silly motion. In a video posted Thursday, he told union members that if a superior orders them to submit their vaccination status to the portal, they should refuse, because he said it would be an improper and illegal order. He also called on members to try to record any attempts to force them to comply with the city's order on their body cameras. Jesus Christ. Yeah, be sure and do that. Please record it on your body camera. Please get evidence of that so they can send you home for, without having to work too hard for it, right? On Thursday afternoon, Lightfoot and top police officials tried to assuage public concern that the department would be severely understaffed this weekend, saying officers would not be sent home if they showed up for work Friday and refused to go onto the portal and provide the vaccination status. Lightfoot said officers who do refuse to provide the information will be placed on unpaid leave, but that it wouldn't happen until after the weekend because confirming compliance would take a few days because apparently they need to update their system also. Don't be getting any good ideas from Governor Mikey P. Jesus Christ. She did make it clear, though, that there would be consequences for refusing to provide the information, which Lightfoot said would constitute an act of insubordination. First, Deputy Eric Carter said that if officers were expected to meet Friday's deadline, unless they had an approved medical or religious exemption, those who don't comply could face discipline as severe as being fired. He also said that under the city's rules, those who aren't vaccinated by Friday must get tested twice per week on their own time. Yeah. and at their own expense. On the fence on that one. I mean, they shouldn't be paid for getting tested. That's your problem. That's a you issue. Whether or not they should have to pay for it themselves, well, I don't know. In the case of police officers, they are government employees. Maybe they should be paying for that shit themselves. I'm just saying, like, the factories and whatnot, I get it. It's a different story. But cops, when you have freaky, wacky, unions like this to protect you no matter what kind of dumb shit you're up to, maybe the officers should be paying for that on their own. That's not for me to decide. I'm on the fence on that one. But I can see both sides there. Must get tested twice a week in their own time, at their own expense, until the end of the year when they would be required to be vaccinated. Well, you got to figure it out. Oh, that's the end there. All right. Well, before we see any more sexy girls on the beach, let's just jump back from that. So with that, I mean, again, more officers died from COVID last year than anything else. More officers died from COVID this year than anything else. In fact, twice as many officers, just as many plus some officers died this year from COVID than anything else. Just as many officers died last year just from COVID than anything else. Are police unions advocating for dead cops? Because that's what it looks like on paper, at least. Again, the numbers speak for themselves. Last year and this year, COVID was the number one cause of police death in the United States. And, as my dude Bo from the Fifth Column put it, it led to 145 flags being in the ground or handed to somebody's family. So, where's your patriotism at, bro? That's a lot to think about. But, listen, we're going to take a short break and we'll jump right back into it. All right, so I got a few minutes left, so I want to say thank you to you, bro, the viewer, right? Because without the viewers, I would be just some guy talking, sitting in a room alone, talking at a wall, and it would be very, very sad. So you, the viewer, make this entire experience much, much less sad. But seriously, my show is, for the vast majority, nearly 100%, self-funded. And so just look, I appreciate the folks who, my friends and the folks who have been watching me since, the ads and the warehouse days, have been following my, my businesses, the model and all that. Yeah, man, from the heart, I thank you. I appreciate you. And feel free to give me any input. I'm getting tons of negative input for doing a news show of this kind of, variety, obviously, and living in the kind of area that we all live in. So definitely the negative feedback has been coming. So that's good in its own way. And I'm sure these last couple of shows that I've been putting together are going to get plenty of negative feedback from the community, so that's good. But anybody with any positive feedback, or just neutral feedback, ask me about my stolen cactus. I will spill the beans for you. But anyway, so for those folks who've been watching, thank you very much. Feel free to reach out to me, and bro, we'll catch you in the flippity fling floor. Rock and roll.